There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul.
One more deep breath in. One more deep breath out. May we continue in that peaceful mode that we have achieved through our breathing. Last weekend, I set aside some time to install a My Lock that I'd ordered for the front door of a condo that we rent to vacationers. It's one of those locks that you can push in a code, you know. I had done one of these before, and I thought surely I could do it again without having to go back and look at a YouTube video or something. After all, I had the directions that came in the box. But let me tell you, I struggled. And my inner critic was right there in my head saying, Jane, you can't even follow simple directions right. Jane, you don't even know which screw goes where. What's wrong with you? Jane, you are not physically strong enough to do this without an electric screwdriver. And that led to, Jane, you're probably going to have to get a man to do this. Which led to, Jane, instead of an economist, you should have married a handyman. So I decided to just quit and wait till the next day to try again. And that inner critic harassed me with, you can't do this. You're not good enough. But the next day, I looked more carefully at the directions and was able to see what I was doing wrong. And I awakened that inner encourager to cheer me on while I got it done. Do you have an inner critic in your head? Like me, my colleague, Reverend Molly Gordon, has one, and knowing hers very well, she takes a guess at what ours may be like. She writes, it probably believes you're not good enough at any number of things and suspects your very worth as a person depends on exactly those things. It is likely jealous of the success of others and thrives on making unflattering comparisons. It almost certainly goads you to work even harder and do ever better, insisting you must earn your spot on this crowded planet. It possibly stops you from speaking your mind out of fear. It might whisper that revealing your most valued part of yourself to the world is just asking for trouble. It definitely advises you not to get too close to others for fear they will see the flaws that you are surely hiding. And it probably assumes that while you are never good enough, at least you're better than so-and-so. Now, as Unitarian Universalist folks, we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of everyone, not the worth and dignity they've earned, but the worth and dignity they have by just being a fellow human being. That's a hard principle to always affirm, isn't it? Especially when we know some folks who seem to be incapable of empathy and compassion. But that's what this principle calls on us to support. And most religions have similar affirmations. Jesus said that we should love our neighbors as we love ourselves. That may be part of the problem. The problem may be that this is, in fact, what folks are doing. And if they have no self-compassion and understanding, then they are often the ones to treat their neighbors so terribly. When the Dalai Lama learned of the Western term of self-hatred, after first being confused, he was immediately worried. Are people like that violent? And the answer is yes. It's like the fella coming home from work after doing what he and perhaps others think of as a poor job and lashing out at his children, who then go and kick the dog. So learning to recognize our own inherent worth and dignity is important. Where does this feeling of not being good enough come from? Sharon Martin addresses this on her blog, on her Live Well blog. She says, for years, we believed the lies others have told us, that we're unworthy. We get these messages everywhere from critical parents, well-meaning teachers, our friends, and the media. And I'll add, especially social media. We repeatedly hear words that we must earn our worth and that the only special select few can be worthy. Well, that's bullshit. We don't have to prove or earn our self-worth. We're all inherently worthy. We all have value, she says. Martin shares 5 ways that we compromise our self-worth, and we need to confront these if we are to reclaim our self-worth. I admit I'm often guilty of these, and perhaps some of you may be as well. So I'm going to share these with you. The first is perfectionism. We feel unworthy because we're imperfect. Now, I teach and preach against this. When I was a professor teaching graduate students, I had to constantly affirm to students that a B on a paper did not stand for bad. And yet, as a graduate student myself, I had to earn an A. I did this all through my master's, specialist, and doctoral programs. And I wonder what that perfectionism might have done to my young family. When I went to seminary midlife, I knew it would be hard. And I still had my job at the university. So I told myself I was not going to be like that. But when I got back in the position of a student, I went right back to having to make those A's, over preparing for every class and any kind of evaluation that either the seminary or UU's program for getting fellowship put before me. But who really cares? Not one of you has ever asked to see my transcript. You want someone who cares about you, who brings messages and leads services that inspire you, who challenges you to do good in the world and make the world a better place. Now, I'm not saying it's not good to set high expectations for ourselves. That's a good thing. But some of us sure need to let go of that perfectionism. One of my favorite authors, Anne Lamott, warns us that perfectionism is the voice of the oppressor. It is the enemy of the people. The second way we compromise our self-worth is overworking. Martin says, we work to excess in order to feel valued and receive tangible proof of our worthiness, which is the proof would be in something like praise or financial compensation, awards, degrees, etc. Again, I'm preaching to myself here. You can wear the shoe if it fits. A third way we compromise our self-worth is busyness. Remember the teacher in Ecclesiastes writing, what gain has the worker from his toil? I have seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. Martin says that we overschedule and keep ourselves busy as a way to feel important and needed. I find that I also keep myself busy as a distraction from dealing with pain, disappointment, and grief. A fourth way we compromise our self-worth is by comparison. We look to others to measure our own value. We may compare ourselves to others and feel inferior. Or just as bad, we find others who we think are not as good and compare ourselves to them in order to feel superior. Greg and I have been watching episodes of Glee just for pure entertainment, but there's always a lesson in these episodes. This past Tuesday night, we saw the episode where Rachel Berry compares her nose to Quinn's nose and decides that she needs that more perfect nose to be successful and worthy. Of course, the Glee Club sings to her about Barbra Streisand, and helps her accept herself as beautiful and worthy. In the same episode, others reveal and own aspects of themselves that have made them feel unworthy and end up singing Gaga's Born This Way and loving themselves and others. The final way we compromise our self-worth, according to Martin, is people pleasing. She says that we prioritize other people's opinions above our own. We compromise our values and needs to please others, and we feel less than when others are angry or disappointed with us. Now, I thankfully quit trying to please most of the folks who live in this community at an early age. But you know, I still have a bit of a problem with this with some folks. I'm a 70-year-old woman with a 94-year-old mama. And yet I have a lot of disappointment and pain when I know that she disapproves of anything in my life. I still want my mama's approval, but I should quit that. I have her love. Isn't that enough? It should be. Desiring approval can be a dangerous trap, especially in this digital age of social media. We post something and we are disappointed if no one likes it. We are placing too much value on others' approval in determining our worthiness. So, with all these things, how do we get off this hamster wheel and claim our worth by refusing to let others determine how we feel about ourselves? It's hard. It takes practice. It takes a change in mindset. It takes calling for our inner cheerleader and sending that inner critic to the back bedroom. Now, she's not going to go away completely, and perhaps we may need to call her forth at times, but she doesn't need to be a constant presence in our mind. This is one of those problems that can be met with what some call spiritual practices. Reciting mantras, especially those that are affirming, can help. Martin shares one of hers that's a little long, but I'll share the first part with you. She says, I don't have to earn my worth. I don't have to do more, earn more, or be more. I am worthy just as I am right now. Perfecting, practicing, and pretending to be who others want me to be isn't the path of self-worth. I am already worthy, regardless of what anyone thinks. I usually recite the mantra that I borrowed from Forest Church. Want what you have, do what you can, and be who you are. I'll say it again, and you can say it with me. want what you have, do what you can, and be who you are. That's what our first principle calls us to do, to affirm our own inherent worth and dignity and that of others. Another thing we can do is look to others as role models for this process of claiming our self-worth. That's why I included the reading by Maya Angelou. Way back when I read her autobiographical book, which was, the first one was I Know Why a Caged Bird Sings. And then I read all the others that followed and saw how she had not felt very good about herself because all of the things in her life, and how she came out of that to claim that self-worth we saw her claiming in that poem, And I Rise. What a role model she has been for so many. When we are faced with criticism, frustrations, and hardships, we can maintain our worth and dignity while allowing ourselves to evolve. When we face the boiling water, we may need to become softer and more flexible like the potato, or stronger and harder like the egg. And perhaps some of us can even use that adversity and call on our own worth and dignity to do as the coffee grounds do and change the water, change the world. But we must know we are worthy to do it and recognize that river of love that is flowing through our souls. Sing that first verse with me. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. May it be so. May it be so.